How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So, yesterday, good win against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Yankees have won, 4 of the last 5 games? They're looking pretty good. The veterans are stepping up. The pitching is looking pretty solid, aside from Marcus Stroman against the Houston Astros 2 days ago. But today we're going to talk about Clarke Schmidt, and Clarke Schmidt's second-year starter. This rotation, guys, I mean, honestly, when Garrett Cole comes back, I don't know who is going to have to get booted from this rotation. It's going to be really difficult to decide. Schmidt's looking much better. Stroman's solid. We also just paid him, so there's no way we're booting him from the rotation. Nestor Cortez and Rodon have both had some really great performances, and Luis Gil's probably been our best pitcher. So it's kind of like, who's the odd man out here? Clarke Schmidt made a really nice case for himself to not be the odd man out yesterday against a good Tampa Bay Rays team. So, looking at Clarke Schmidt, we're going to break him down, what he's been doing lately. Obviously, baseball's kind of a what have you been doing lately game for us. We're always quick to jump on the backs of guys that are struggling, but the guys that aren't struggling, obviously helping move this Yankee team along. But Ryan, what are your impressions so far on Clarke Schmidt? A couple starts under his belt this season. He's looking like he's taking a nice developmental step forward, which is what we were looking forward to. Obviously, we'll get deeper into the conversation in terms of breaking down his pitches, what they've looked like, how opposing batters are faring against them. But what is your initial impression so far? And of course, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great, and kind of as you alluded to, the rotation has been really damn good for the Yankees, right? The Yankees rank 7th in ERA, in terms of strikeout rate. They've climbed into the top 5 there as well. Strikeouts were kind of a question for the Yankees all year. Early on in the season, we talked about, hey, they need to go out and get strikeouts. I was talking about Rodon specifically, hey, go out and get whiffs. He's been getting more strikeouts lately, but of course, the focus today is on Clarke Schmidt, who has been remarkable for the Yankees. I mean, there's no other way to kind of put it. He has been really damn good. He's getting more swings and misses, which is a huge plus. His arsenal has gotten significantly better. Again, that's a huge plus. And then just kind of looking at some of the underlying metrics, they're pretty good as well. The expected FIP, the skill interactive ERA, both of those numbers are positive. His stuff plus is really good, so the quality of pitch is great at 114. I think he's gotten better at sequencing. I wrote an article earlier today detailing some of the changes he's made, and kind of looking a little bit under the hood here. Lefties gave him a lot of trouble last year. We talked about last year just ad nauseum, right? He really struggled against left-handed batters. They hit 303 with a 500 swing percentage. This year, it's at 235 with a 397 swing percentage. Now, the cutter has improved against lefties. We anticipated that would be a pitch for him against lefties, or at least that's what the thought process was last year. But this year, weirdly enough, the cutter is still good against lefties. It's gotten better. It's become his primary offering there. But his sinker has really taken a step forward against lefties. He's able to throw that pitch either front hip, kind of catch them on the inside part of the plate, or dot it on the outside part of the plate for some swings and misses or called strikes, go with the cutter inside or backdoor the cutter. Because he has such a good command of his 2 fastballs, he's able to attack hitters left and right. But it's interesting because his sinker hasn't performed as well against righties, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because the confidence in his sweeper has gone up. In this last outing against the Rays, he only used his sinker 12.5% of the time. He was pretty aggressive with it, when he was able to, let's say second or third time through the order, he would say, hey, Harold Ramirez, here's a 2-seam fastball inside, and he would be able to get a swing and miss because he painted the inside part of the plate. It was a pitch he wasn't throwing a lot, so Ramirez hadn't seen that pitch all AB. He had been seeing cutters, sweepers, away, and then he finally went inside, and that's the art of pitching, right? That's the ability to sequence and all that stuff. But the slider has gotten a lot better. Last year, it had 9 inches of horizontal movement and a 109 stuff plus with a -2 run value. This year, it's at a 12.3 inches of horizontal movement with a 137 stuff plus and a +4 run value. So it's quickly gone from, one of the worst sweepers in baseball to one of the best. And I think that's a big difference for him because in 2022, when he was a reliever, that was his money pitch. That was his go-to pitch. And when you go and you take somebody's best pitch and it gets worse, or it's not as good, or it's not performing as well, that really throws everything in a loop, right? I mean, that's kind of universal across any sport. Imagine if Steph Curry couldn't hit his threes. Imagine if Tom Brady couldn't throw his deep ball, right? You take away the thing you're best at, and suddenly you're no longer, you feel incomplete. You're a shell of yourself when you're performing. You're vulnerable. You're exposed. Things of that nature. And again, I kind of hinted at some of the struggles Schmidt has had with his sinker. It's been his worst pitch by a pretty considerable margin, but it still remained a solid enough pitch, and he has 4 quality pitches now. He has a cutter, a sinker, a curveball, a sweeper. The depth of arsenal allows him to attack lefties and righties more. He has a 2.95 ERA. He's still getting hit a little bit hard. I think that's something he's going to want to improve upon by just kind of staying away from the sinker. But overall, I'm just so impressed with the maturity on the mound, the ability to go 6 2/3 scoreless innings yesterday, and not in some blowout, right? It wasn't some, the Yankees are up 8-0. It's a laugher. It's a joke of a game or whatever it may be. And look, the Rays, it's like they're a dominant offense. This isn't the Baltimore Orioles, but he did pitch well against the Baltimore Orioles, that being Clark Schmidt. This isn't, the Los Angeles Dodgers, but it's still a Rays team that can kill the Yankees a little bit, and it's still an MLB lineup. So, when I'm looking at this unit, when I'm looking at what Clark Schmidt was able to do, Alex, 6 2/3 innings, right? In a game where the time run was up in every single AB except for the 7th inning. Or no, excuse me, in every single AB period, because Rizzo didn't hit that solo shot until the 9th. So, every single pitch he made could have given up the lead, and he was able to hold it down. He was efficient. He was effective. I think if it wasn't a one-run game, he would have gotten that 7th inning. I think he would have just been able to maybe he would have been able to get to the 8th. So overall, Alex, I think the next progression for him now is just pitching deeper into games. The ERA is good. The strikeout rate is good. The stuff is good. Now it's a matter of consistently getting third time through so that he can become more than just like some back end or middle of the rotation starter.
And that's exactly what I was going to point out. Like, he's working his way further into games, and that's been a major talking point for us over the past year. He 5th inning, 6th inning comes around, he gets kicked out of the game because he starts giving up hits, starts giving up home runs. His fatigue starts to settle in. His pitches, batters are starting to get more of an eye for it. But he looked pretty solid yesterday for the most part. I mean, pitch count got up, and they were like, yeah, I think now's the right time. They put Nick Birdie in. He put just 3 pitches, and then Jose Trevino guns out. Paredes at second base. So you're like, pretty good situation to be in for the Yankees. You're watching Clark Schmidt's development equate to more innings pitched deeper into baseball games, and that helps your bullpen significantly. We saw them option Ron Marinaccio with, Birdie coming back, but also just to give, some more guys rest. Ron Marinaccio a little bit upset. I know he spoke to Aaron Boone, and Boone was like, yeah, he was frustrated. And I get it. Like, Marinaccio's kind of having a renaissance season after last year's debacle, but his velocity's a bit down, accuracy's a bit up. Sometimes you want to, kind of forfeit a little bit of velocity to get your pitches across the strike zone, because he was walking a stupendous amount of batters last year. Now Ron's looking a lot more under control and looking a little bit more confident with his stuff. So you love to see that from Ron. He'll be back up in no time. I have no doubt about it. He was really trending in the right direction. So, they just wanted to get Birdie back in the mix here, get him some more innings, and, they've been consistent. I wonder if they end up moving Dennis Santana out to AAA at some point. I know he's been a little inconsistent at times in favor of Ron, but we'll kind of see what happens there. As for the starting rotation, though, like I really, this is a really great problem to have. Who's going to be that number 6 guy that kind of gets put into a supplementary role, maybe even helps in long innings relief, maybe out of the bullpen. I know you kind of mentioned Luis Gil as a potential option for that. Maybe the Yankees want to limit his innings and keep him healthy for the second half of the season. Is that kind of where you sit right now? Are you willing to move Luis Gil to the bullpen despite the fact he might be our best pitcher up to this point in the season, and just make sure he's healthy coming off Tommy John surgery and all the rest? Do you still think that's the right move?
So there's 2 things I want to say regarding that. Number one, we're assuming everybody's healthy when Garrett Cole comes back, and I think that's a dangerous assumption, right? I think that sets us up for a lot of disappointment, because we're talking about pitchers here. We're talking about a very injury-prone position. It's kind of like assuming that in football, your entire offensive line is going to remain healthy from week 1 to week 18. Like, that's just not going to happen. Does not happen. It rarely does. Pitching is a very, very dangerous, very injury-prone position. I think the Yankees, this is a really good problem to have, because we may not have it's fine, we'll just shove this guy to the bullpen. We might be saying, yeah, we need Cole back because this guy's on the IL, right? And again, I don't want to kind of be a doomer here, but that's just how pitching is, right? Like, I think the Yankees know that they're getting really good outcomes right now by having everybody else outside of Cole stay healthy in the meantime. But if everybody were to stay healthy, which fingers crossed, that's the hope, that's the goal, that's what you want. I would say you kind of have to pick Gil because of the innings count, right? Like, that seems like the direction we're trending. As you mentioned, like, someone's probably going to say Stroman, and like, they're just not going to move Stroman. Like, they're not going to move Stroman to the bullpen. I just don't see the value in that necessarily. Like, why give up on a signing in June, right? Like, that also seems a little bit crazy. Let's say Cole comes back on June 20th, right? You're going to give up on a guy before the All-Star break and you just signed him? Like, that seems crazy. That would be crazy. That would genuinely be insanity. I guess people are going to say, well, it's insanity to not throw out your best 5. Well, we don't know if what Stroman or Gil are going to look like. 2 starts into the year, Stroman was the best pitcher on the Yankees, right? Things change like this. Cortez, after 2 starts, was like, this guy stinks. He's clearly the guy who's going to be the odd man out. And now he looks like one of the more reliable guys in the rotation. He's the guy who leads the team in innings pitched. He pitches deep into games reliably. Like, he is a pretty stabilizing force in the middle of that rotation. And then just kind of looking at where the bullpen structure is, like, I think they need swings and misses in that bullpen. I think Luis Seal will be great out of the bullpen. I think Luis Seal's dominant, blah, 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 all that stuff. I just think it'd be crazy to give up on somebody who just signed in June, unless they're really, really bad. Like, if Stroman has like a 6 ERA, yeah, like, got to figure something out there. But if his ERA is like 3.8 and Heels is 3.5, 3.4, even 3.3, they're going to keep Heel in the bullpen. They're not going to throw Stroman out of the rotation. It just doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint. It doesn't make sense from a roster construction standpoint. It's a bad process. There are a million things that are wrong with that decision. And then kind of kicking back to the Marinaccio call, because I know some people were pretty mad about that. At first, I was pretty upset about it, but this is a numbers game. So let's say so Michael Tonkin is the guy that we probably wanted cut, right? Like let's be real here, Michael Tonkin's a worse reliever than Ron Marinaccio. If they were to cut Tonkin, they would have to DFA him. That means you have one less arm in the organization. Nick Birdie is very injury prone. And how many times have we seen a guy come back and then immediately get hurt right after, right? They're like, oh, I didn't feel the same. Like, I threw today, I came back from this like leg issue, and now the leg's barking up again. They end up back on the IL. You can't bring Tonkin back. You can't undo a waiver, a DFA. You have to let him pass through waivers, and then you have to see if you can bring him back. And then you have to put him back on your 40-man roster. For Marinaccio, all you have to do is option him. If somebody gets hurt in the next day or so, you can bring Marinaccio back up. There is an exception for guys who are optioned when there are injury situations. You can bring them back up. You don't have to wait the 10 to 15 days that they've instated now. So it's a numbers game. You keep more pitchers in your organization by sending Marinaccio down. Yeah, obviously, Michael Tonkin is not going to get you out of a big jam. I understand that. But Birdie is probably going to be able to do that. Birdie is just filling in the Marinaccio innings. So it's very kind of like technical, but Canley's on his way back. He's having a second rehab outing, I think, today. That's 2 of 5. We'll see how fast he can come back. But yeah, like right now, Alex, it's just a numbers game. Like, they're just going to play a numbers game. That's the same thing with Heel and Stroman. They're just playing the numbers game. They're just trying to keep as many fresh arms in the organization as possible because injuries happen like this. You go from, oh yeah, we've got Clay Holmes, Ian Hamilton, Luke Weaver, who's been, phenomenal, right? To, oh God, everyone's hurt, right? Like, Loizaga was supposed to be the multi-inning guy. Gone, right? Hamilton, he looked unbelievable, and now he's dealing with some soreness, and he's not feeling so great, and now he looks a little bit shaky on the mound. So things kind of happen like this. Guys get hurt like that. I think it's a numbers game at this point. And then just kind of tying everything back to Clark Schmidt here. Clark Schmidt was a first-round pick and a former top 100 prospect. We're not talking about some guy who just showed up out of nowhere. For a while, he was the Yankees' best pitching prospect. So we're looking at a guy now where if the Yankees can convert a former first-round pick into let's say, a number 3 starter, that is a pretty good outcome. And if you start looking at the track record of first-round picks now, Volpe's having a pretty strong year. I know that he's had his ups and downs, but overall, a 119 WRC plus and 5 outs above average is a good season. Austin Wells, we'll see there. His defense has been phenomenal. The offense, he's been a little unlucky, so hopefully he can get that turned around. That's another first-round pick. Spencer Jones, another first-round pick. And then obviously George Lombard Jr., the most recent one. You can kind of start building together an organization around these players, and you can start building a foundation. And the Yankees starting to convert some of these draft picks into quality major leaguers is huge. It's unbelievably important for this team. The ability to turn prospects into quality major leaguers is massive. 3 of the 5 pitchers currently in the Yankee rotation were drafted or signed by the Yankees: Nestor Cortez, Luis Seal, and Clark Schmidt. That's pretty good, right? Like that's a far cry from the years past. In the lineup, you've got Volpe and Judge, who were signed and developed by the organization. Gleyber was developed by the organization, not signed or drafted by them. He was signed by the Cubs. You kind of hope that Wells, of course. You kind of hope that you can infuse more young talent. But as you get better, as your organization gets stronger, guys like Clark Schmidt becoming these quality starters, it becomes even more important because you're going to pay Juan Soto, or you hope to. In order to do that, you've got to develop young talent and cheap, cost-controlled talent because Schmidt, I'm just going to put this out there, pitches well this year. Extension candidate. He's the extension candidate. He is. So, I like having in-house talent turn into major league talent. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, me too. Look, this is a pretty interesting situation where the Yankees have a lot of really good talent. Obviously, their pitching has been excellent to start the year. Schmidt's taken a big step forward. And we'll see how these things progress. The bullpen's been one of the best in the game. And as we expect every year, Matt Blake pulls a miracle out of his butt. And we have a good bullpen despite the fact that we have no money invested in it. You know what I mean? Tommy Kahnle, basically non-existent. Scott Efros, not here. Lou Trevino, these guys, some of our best arms, like you said, Loizaga, just constant injuries, and we are just finding value in players that have been passed along throughout the league. Journeyman players. Luke Weaver is a journeyman, like the definition of a journeyman. He went through 5 teams before landing with the Yankees, 4 teams in the course of 2 years. He was with St. Louis, then he went to Arizona, then he went to like Seattle and the Reds. Like, he was all over the place. And then the Yankees say, oh, well, we kind of like his cutter. And then they find him, and suddenly he's an effective pitcher for us. So, it's just the way things go with the Yankees. They have an eye for talent in that regard, and hopefully they can continue to develop some of these really good young pitchers to make an impact in the future. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts below on Clark Schmidt, how you think this rotation will unfold when Garrett Cole returns. And as always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.